Hello, Year 10, and welcome to today's lesson. Before you begin, please make sure that you've downloaded the following sheets, and these are 4 Word documents attached to this assignment, all called Lesson 7 KK Media Language, and then you'll see various different things that you will be looking at during the course of this lesson. Before we begin, just a brief word about the notes that people are making. I've noticed that people are generally just copying down my information off the slide, and that isn't really very valuable. That's not the idea about what we're doing here, and it's never been the idea about how I teach. The slides are really just cues for me to talk to you about the work that we're doing, whatever the product we're looking at, whether it's Kim Kardashian or Doctor Who or whatever. On each slide, or on most slides, there are prompt questions, and the prompt questions are designed to get you looking at the really important information. But the answers are not just on the slide. They're not just information on the slide. They're also in what I'm saying. You need to make sure that you're listening to the comments that I'm making, and I hope you are watching this as a YouTube video and not just working through the slideshow without any context, because it isn't really going to help you doing that. And you need to make sure that your answers are in your own words. They're not just my words, because if you're doing that, if you're just copying down what's on the slide, you're not getting all the information. So please don't just copy everything slavishly down off the slide. Please make sure that you're writing these in your own words and that you're noting down key points when I make them. Secondly, I've noticed that when people are writing their essays and when people are writing their notes, they're not giving examples. Now, often on the slides themselves, the examples aren't really obvious. The examples are things that I'll mention. You need to make sure that you're giving specific examples either from Kim's social media output or from the game itself, which requires you to spend a bit of time looking at those, which is what we're going to be doing today. If you're not giving examples, you're unlikely to get more than half marks for a question. The examples need to be explicit and they need to be clearly linked to what we've studied. Thirdly, what I've noticed with people's notes, they don't always make sense. That means that you're jotting down a couple of words or out of context phrases that when you come to revise in a few weeks' time, and it is only going to be a few weeks' time, you won't really understand what you're looking at. You need to make sure that it's clear what everything that you're noting down refers to, because otherwise it won't really make much sense to you. So do please make sure that your notes are detailed and that they make sense, please. Right, start off, it's a knowledge retrieval task, and this is a question. I haven't put the marks on this. It would be about a 6-mark question, this one. Question is, the representation of women in Kim Kardashian of Hollywood is appropriate. How far do you agree with this statement? This is an AO2 question. This is asking you to analyze Kim Kardashian Hollywood. In this case, it's representation. It's the representation of women. Do you agree that the game represents women appropriately? I'd like you to answer that question, giving your opinion, giving clear reasons with evidence from the game. You've got 10 minutes to do that, so I would pause this slideshow or video. I would set a timer on your phone, give yourself 10 minutes. When you've done that, move on. We need to have a clear idea of the historical, social, and cultural contexts of Kim Kardashian Hollywood. Now, that requires us to have a look at gaming as a cultural phenomenon that is now one of the biggest media industries in the world, the importance of social media, which is another of the most important media industries in the world, and then how this links to Kim Kardashian and how it also links to Lara Croft and Zoella. Now, we've obviously not looked at Lara Croft or Zoella yet, and when we do, we'll go into a little bit more detail about the gaming industry and about the social media industry. We're using Kim Kardashian effectively as a point of entry to both of those worlds, but we will cover them more in detail when we look at those two closely products later in the term. And we need to think particularly about the online participatory nature of these products. They are designed to be interacted with by an audience rather than simply consumed as most media products are. Before we move on, one thing I want you to think about is this idea of branding. Now, we've mentioned the idea of the Kim Kardashian brand before. It could be argued that Kim herself is representative of a kind of branding. That Kim's life, the way she lives her life, or the way she seems to live her life, is a key part of her brand. And that means that her Twitter feed, her Instagram feed, her Facebook page are significant parts of the Kim Kardashian experience. You may or may not be aware that a few years ago she gave up social media. She was robbed in Paris, and it was suggested that her frequent use of social media, which emphasized her wealth and her kind of her value, had led to her becoming a target for the thieves. And it is interesting that her approach to social media changed after that, and became a lot more personal rather than lifestyle driven. Although you'll notice when you look at her feeds now, they are far more focused on selling stuff, um, than they are on actually exploring Kim Kardashian's life. I'd like you to note down in your own words the importance of Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to Kim Kardashian. And this is what I mean by making notes, because you can just copy that down, but it doesn't really make much sense on its own. The really important point here is that following Kim Kardashian on her social media account is very important to her millions of followers, and they have an idea of what Kim Kardashian is like solely based on what she posts on social media. This then creates an expectation of a Kim Kardashian fan. And a Kim Kardashian fan, the fan base, is seen as being a reflection of Kim herself. They are upmarket, or they want to be upmarket, they're aspirational, they are tech savvy, they know about and they enjoy using technology. So there is a clear link between Kim Kardashian herself, the life she expresses to have on social media, and the target audience. And so there is then this link between the social media feeds and the game. Kim promoted the game on her social media feeds, as we've discussed in the past, and indeed on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And this may have brought an audience to the game which wouldn't normally play video games. There will be a proportion of Kim Kardashian's fan base, this aspirational upmarket crowd, that would not normally engage with computer games, but solely because of the Kim Kardashian branding, because the game seems to be a way of playing at being Kim Kardashian, or at least playing at being in Kim Kardashian's world, that they will join that particular game experience. The notes I'd like you to write. I'd like you to explain the importance of Kim Kardashian's lifestyle to her brand. And that doesn't just mean copying down what I've written about Twitter and Instagram. It's about identifying the the way Kim Kardashian lives her life, the way that that life is documented on social media is part of Kim's branding. It's part of what we expect of Kim Kardashian. If she turned off those social media feeds, if she stopped posting completely on social media, the Kim Kardashian brand would be very, very different. How is Kim iconic of upmarket and aspirational culture? Well, I haven't actually written the answer to that question. You've got to kind of unpick that one. Now, the answer to that question, how is Kim iconic of upmarket aspirational culture, is that she represents that culture to her fan base. If you are a Kim Kardashian fan, you will regard Kim Kardashian as being a symbol of success and wealth. And that is what Kim Kardashian is. So she is, because of the way she lives her life, flying around in private jets, um, going to exciting places, meeting exciting people. She has become iconic of upmarket culture, promoting the game on her social media feeds. Again, you've got a basic answer there in my notes, but what I've said to you is that Kim Kardashian's audience, there will be a portion of them who would not normally play video games. Because Kim Kardashian has emphasized the game, not just on her social media feeds, but on her programs, that will attract a range of audiences. Please make sure that you've answered those questions in your own words and then move on to the next slide. Right, so the remainder of this lesson is actually not going to be me talking to you, it's going to be you doing some research. You need to have examples from Kim's website, her Twitter feed, and her Facebook page. And obviously, with these being social media, they are changing a lot. So what they look like today isn't necessarily what they're going to look like in a few weeks or a few months' time. So it is worth checking them. But what you need to do is you need to have notes on what each of those sites or platforms have on it and what they tell us about Kim Kardashian and how they link with the game. And we'll talk a little bit more about the game in a few moments. So this is where you're going to get your examples that you're going to use in your essays. I want you to spend about 10 minutes on each of these, and that is Kim's website, her Facebook page, her Twitter feed, and the Let's Play of her video game. I appreciate if you're doing this in school, this is going to be difficult. I'm sorry, I can't, there's no other way of doing this. You're going to have to do your best. And if you can't get onto it on the computer, you might have to ask if you can use your phone. Hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. The worst case scenario is you're going to have to do it at home. But I don't have any other way of doing this because I just don't have the capacity to actually record the sites myself, and you need to click through them. This is where the sheets come in. Each of the sheets is a table and there are prompt questions of things you've got to look at. What I've done is I've written in one example. What I'd like you to do is find your own examples, and that means specific examples of things on the website that you could write about, or things on the Twitter feed, particular comments, particular posts, particular tweets, things that you think are representative of Kim Kardashian's uh, appearance, representation, what you will, on social media. You don't necessarily have to go through them in this order, but I would like to see that you spent about 10 minutes on each of them. The website, which is kkwbeauty.com, and I'm not going to talk you through each of these because they are very similar, but you'll see the table has 5 areas that I'd like to talk about. These are typical shots, edits, and camera work. Now, in terms of most of these, you're going to be talking about photographs. The Kim Kardashian beauty website does have some video on it. There's a video tab, and you can have a look at a couple of the videos, and that'll give you a couple of things that you can talk about in terms of music. The bedding is the background music, and the way the camera is used. The style and content, you can obviously think about things like the way that fonts are used, the choice of images, the color scheme, and things like that, which I've not mentioned. Other key points or codes, anything else that occurs to you, anything else that you think is significant. And this could be anything. And remember, the critical thing is that you're getting examples. The critical thing is that you are providing evidence of specifics. Um, so, for example, you might talk about the choice of browns and pinks within the color scheme. You might talk about the choice of particular models, the race of the models, the age of the models, and things like that. You might talk about particular products that are for sale and the choice of language that's used to describe them, and so on and so forth. Please make sure that you've got clear examples written down. My notes are brief. My notes are just to introduce. Your notes should be longer. You should spend about 10 minutes exploring that site. Note down anything that you think is of interest. Similarly, Kim's Twitter feed, again, there are similar things to fill in about that. Obviously, Twitter is organized in a slightly different way. You could look at not just Kim's feed, but the sidebar, the kind of things that it's directing you towards, particular products that seem to be sponsored, particular people. Have a look at the number of followers she has. Have a look at the kind of links there are, the way it's linked to the website. Have a look at um, what she has been tweeting. How does that link to the website? How does it link to the Facebook page? You'll see just on those two slides that there are two very similar things on those pages. There's a clear cross platform approach, so that if you're not following her on Twitter, if you're following her on Facebook, then you are seeing quite a range of things going on. Again, look at the number of followers she has, look at how she's branded. Kim Kardashian West, public figure. Have a look at her photograph and the photo that's been chosen, the way that, again, the website is linked to it. Is there any personal stuff on there? And finally, and I think perhaps most importantly, the game. And I noticed that a lot of people weren't giving examples from the game. So I'm directing you here towards a specific Let's Play. This is one that doesn't have a voiceover. It's just the gameplay. It's the opening 10 or 15 minutes of the game. I'd like you to watch at least 10 minutes of it. And I'd like you to look at my notes. And I'd like you to make your own notes based on specific things, specific actions that you see in the game. So you've got examples, and that link will be on the assignment as well. This should take you the rest of the lesson. When you finish, please photograph your work. If you've typed the worksheets directly into Teams, you don't have to do anything else. I'll be able to see that. Upload anything you photographed and click to show you finished, and that is it.